Hi, I am Sehul Shah here at Decizone. Today, I want to talk about creating and editing your own interactive flowcharts and then sharing them. In this training number 2, we will build upon the basic concepts discussed in our training number 1 and get a detailed look at the Decizone flowchart editor. We will also look at how to manage your content as well as managing access to that content. This training is primarily focused on the flowchart creators and editors in your team. We recommend that you first go through the Decizone training number 1, the Decizone features review, to get a good overview of the platform. Throughout this training number 2, we will be referring to topics explained in the feature guide, so feel free to refer to them at your convenience. So with that housekeeping out of the way, here's a list of the topics that we will be covering in detail in this training number 2 on editing and sharing Decizone flowcharts. Before we start, let's briefly recap a few basics. In Decizone platform, flowcharts are like your documents and are organized in the category tree under organizations, categories, subcategories, and the goals. Goals in Decizone are like the main question or the problem statement, and the flowcharts created under a particular goal are the author's approach at addressing that goal statement. Also, a goal may have multiple flowcharts created by different authors. In Decizone, a flowchart is a logical structure put together by its author by assembling different types of logical nodes like statements, decisions, multiple choices, etc. Throughout this video, I'm going to refer to all of these different types of logical nodes collectively as boxes to keep it simple. Each type of box selected by the author takes a step in the forward direction and may also carry out an action depending on the box type. When you want to edit a flowchart in Decizone, you need to enter the edit mode by clicking on the edit toggle. You will see the flowchart version window listing all the versions of that flowchart. Let's talk about flowcharts and flowchart versioning. Decizone platform allows versioning for your flowcharts seamlessly managed behind the scenes. When a flowchart is first created, it is considered version 0. You can keep modifying version 0 as needed. You can also clone an existing version to create a new version. So it's quite possible to end up with multiple versions of the same flowchart. It is important to understand that versioning a flowchart is not the same thing as making copies of that flowchart. You can have multiple versions behind any flowchart, but only one version is exposed for each flowchart, and only the users with edit privileges for the flowchart have access to the other versions. This is where the master version status comes into the picture. A flowchart with multiple versions is not visible to anyone other than the author unless the author marks one of the versions as the master version. A flowchart created by an author will be visible under a goal only when that flowchart has a master version identified by its author. So you can think of the master version status as if you're saying, this flowchart is ready to be shared. Go ahead and let other members discover and access this flowchart under its goal. And when they click on this flowchart, show the master version of that flowchart to the viewer. The author can change the master version of the flowchart anytime she wants. And the next time a viewer opens that flowchart, the new master version is displayed. This is actually a big deal. It allows the author to edit a new version of this flowchart while other people are using the master version. When the new flowchart version is ready for prime time, then all the author has to do is to change the master version, and from that point onwards, everyone will see the new master version. There are a few aspects about the master version status that are important to understand clearly. The master version of a flowchart cannot be modified. If you want to make minor modifications to the master version itself, but not make a completely new version, then you can remove the master status for the short time you are editing that version. Make your changes to the version and then make it the master version again. Taking this approach will make this flowchart private and inaccessible during the time you spend editing it, but you will not have to create a whole new version for minor modifications. For most situations, it's probably easier and simpler to just make changes by turning off the master version status and then turning it back on after you are done making the changes. As a best practice, try not to have more than two versions of any flowchart to keep your content manageable. Otherwise, it's possible to lose track of what changes went into each version of your flowchart. It is important to understand that a new flowchart version is an almost exact copy of the original flowchart with a few caveats. So when you modify the new flowchart version, make sure that the flowchart is still addressing the same goal statement. To create or edit a flowchart, you must be logged into Decision account. If you are a member of a private organization, you will see your private organization right here in the category tree. All Decision members will be a member of the public organization accessible right here. For your convenience, here's a step-by-step create flowchart guide that takes you through all the steps of creating a sample flowchart. The same steps we will be following in this training. You can use this guide later to go at your own pace and learn some best practices along the way. Now let's create a flowchart using the Create Flowchart wizard. First, you will need to specify if the flowchart will be owned by the private organization you are a member of, or it will be owned by the public organization under your authorship. By default, all flowcharts are created as private to the author and to the private organization selected, and no one else can access them. Now let's talk about editing a flowchart. In Decision, all flowcharts are displayed in the View mode by default. To edit a flowchart, anyone with edit privileges must transition that flowchart to what we call the Edit mode. Edit mode is where all the content management and editing tools are available. So the View mode allows you to step through any flowchart, while the Edit mode allows you to modify and manage that flowchart. When you toggle the Edit mode to On for a flowchart, first of all, you will see the list of versions available for this flowchart. From here, you can select the version as well as the action you want to perform on that version. Let's select the Edit option to open that particular version in the Edit mode. When the Edit mode is turned on, a yellow button with a gear icon is displayed on the outgoing connection of the current box in the center layer. Click on this yellow button to open the Decision Flowchart Editor. The Flowchart Editor has a few unique strengths by design. First, all of the editing functionality is available even on your mobile phone browser. This allows you to easily edit flowcharts on the move and maybe even by leveraging the dictation features of your phone's keyboard. Second, the editor allows you to make changes only to the current box, which is the box in the center layer. So you can navigate to the appropriate box and then click on the yellow gear button to make changes to that box corner. Third, the editing menu tools available inside the editor panel are contextual based on the box type of the current box, as well as the position of that box inside the flowchart. This is also one of the ways Decision Platform provides some guardrails and encourages best practices. And finally, fourth, wherever it makes sense, a brief description as well as best practices are presented just when you are about to use a specific tool. So make sure you read the instructions carefully. The editing tools available inside the editor can be divided in three general categories: tools for changes to the current box, tools for adding or inserting new box types, and tools for managing bookmark links. We will go over these tools as we create our example flowchart shortly. All right, now let's create a new flowchart. Typically, the stakeholders in an organization come together to brainstorm on designing their operational processes and may represent it in the form of a flowchart. A good flowchart is the one with a well thought out logic. This logical thought process is uniquely yours and may include your organization's business rules, guidelines, as well as best practices. This would be a great time to refer to our blog articles on the best practices for creating flowcharts, where we go over many do's and don'ts when creating your flowcharts, as well as our article about troubleshooting strategies, where we discuss the modular structure using bookmark links. For your convenience, we also have a printable flowchart template that you can use to quickly lay down your thought processes. We highly recommend that you prepare at least a rough diagram of your flowchart logic on a piece of paper and thoroughly review it before you begin to create it in Decision. Having a clear logical diagram in front of you while you are creating your Decision interactive flowchart will prevent many common logical mistakes and will be overall more convenient for you. For the rest of the training, we are going to create a simple example flowchart and explain many features along the way. So let's assume that we have brainstormed with our team and finalize this product return process flowchart. This is a simple flowchart and yours may be more detailed based on your requirements. Note that in our example flowchart diagram, we have a decision box, a few statement boxes, user input box, a multiple choices box, as well as a send email box. Also, here is how it would look like after we are done creating it in Decision platform. Now that we have a pretty good idea of what logical structure we need to create in Decision, let's go ahead and start creating a new flowchart. There are two ways to create your flowchart in Decision. First way is to use the Create Flowchart wizard, always available on top of the screen. You first select who will own the new flowchart. Then you select the appropriate category, subcategory, and the goal to create a new flowchart under that goal. The second way to create a flowchart is when you go through the category tree and select a specific goal statement. Under that goal, you will see the existing flowcharts addressing that goal. When the goal is under a private organization, like it is in our case here, any flowchart created under that goal will belong to that private organization, although you may have authored that flowchart. Click on the Create button for a new flowchart under that goal. The new flowchart is created same way, regardless of which method you used. When you create a new flowchart, the platform takes a few actions automatically for you. First, it turns on the edit mode. Second, the platform gives your flowchart a name by combining your display name with a number. You can change this flowchart name later if you wish. Third, the platform creates the version 0 of your flowchart. Fourth, it creates the first box of your flowchart and automatically gives it a caption with the flowchart name and the version number. You could consider this first box as the traditional start box of your flowchart. And fifth, it exposes the flowchart editing tools when you click on the yellow gear button on the current box corners. At this point, we can follow our flowchart diagram along and create the same logic in Decision platform by adding the appropriate logical boxes to our flowchart in the same order. When you click on the yellow gear button for the current box, you will see all the editing tools that are applicable to that current box. Remember, you're making changes only to that single box in the center layer. Since this is the first box we are adding to our flowchart, we highly recommend that you add a statement box with a short one-sentence introduction about the purpose of your flowchart. When you click on Save, the new box is added to your flowchart and made the new current box. Let's go ahead and add our second box, which in our example is going to be a decision box with a simple question with a yes or no answer. Just click on the yellow gear button again. Now you can see that a lot more editing tools are available. Each editing tool is represented by a small diagram to easily remind you what action it takes. The green components are the ones being added, while the red components are the one being removed. For now, let's select the tool for adding a decision box. Just enter our caption and click Save to add a new decision box to our flowchart. The new box we created becomes the current box now and is emphasized in the middle of the screen. Remember, the Editing Tools menu allows you to make changes only to the current box. So if you want to make changes to any box, just bring that box in the center and open the Editing Tools menu. Did you notice that all you have to do is to provide the text caption of each box, and the editor will do all the formatting and connecting the arrows for you using the standard layout design. This standard layout allows you to focus completely on the business logic of your flowchart and not worry too much about the formatting, saving you a lot of time and headache. Now let's pause for a second and take a look at the decision box. The caption for this decision box is supposed to be a very simple question whose answer is always going to be either a clear yes or a clear no. In fact, the viewer of the flowchart will click on the yes or no buttons to answer your questions. So make sure you frame the question in a simple spoken language, just like you're having a conversation with the viewer. So for a decision box, instead of asking a question like, which color do you like? You should ask a yes or no question like, do you like the orange color? Try your best to keep these questions as simple as possible because it will be easy for your audience to answer short and simple questions. The easier you make it for your viewer to answer these questions, the better compliance you will get with your guidance. Our decision box gives us two branches, the yes answer branch and the no answer branch. So first, let's go ahead and add our next box on the yes answer branch, and we will come back to add another box on the no answer branch later. In our example flowchart, the next box on the yes answer branch is a statement box, and the next box on the no answer branch is also a statement box. Let's add the statement box on the yes corner of the decision box first by clicking on its yellow gear icon. At this time, you have a few more editing tools available as applicable to the current box, which in our case is a decision box. We want to select the tool for adding a new statement box on the yes corner or the yes answer branch of the decision box. This creates the statement box and makes it the current box. But we still need to add the box on the no answer branch of our decision box. So let's step back to make our decision box the current box by clicking on that decision box. Now I will click on the yellow edit button for the no corner and let's add our new statement box for the no answer branch. Let's step back to our decision box one more time just to review what we have created. It looks good. We have added one statement box on each of the branches of our decision box. We are not done creating our example flowchart, but let's say at this point, as the author of the flowchart, I want to review the whole flowchart in a single diagram. The whole flowchart view feature is always available to the author of the flowchart right next to the edit toggle button. As you might have guessed by the name, it shows your whole flowchart in a single page. When you are done creating your flowchart in Decizone, the whole flowchart view can help you print your flowchart to a PDF file as a backup for your records. Let's continue and quickly add the other boxes of our example flowchart. The next box we are going to add is a user input box on the no answer branch. The user input box allows the author of the flowchart to ask the viewer to enter some information in a form style input area. To create this box, we just give it the text caption for the instruction and select the type of input expected. Please note, the information entered by the viewer in the user input box is saved in the activity details, and it is also included in the optional activity log email sent at the end of the flowchart branch. So if you would like an email with the information entered by the user, we need to add the send email box after the user input box on the same branch. Let's go ahead and add it now. Let's select the send email box tool. Depending on your account privileges, you may be able to select the email address in the drop-down list where the activity log email will be sent. Let's save it. The send email box is always the last box on any branch, and so our branch is now terminated with the send email box, and we cannot add any more boxes after that. But you can always insert new boxes before the send email box. When your viewer reaches the send email box, it is considered that the viewer has completed the flowchart journey, and an email with a full transcript of all the steps the viewer took is sent to the email address specified in the send email box. We will explain the activity log email in a few minutes. We are still not done creating this flowchart. Let's look at the whole flowchart view to see where we stand. Looks like the no answer branch is looking okay. The next box we need to add on the yes branch is a multiple choice box. So after this statement box, let's add a multiple choice box, also known as MCB in short. Our MCB is a very special box for the structure of your flowchart because it divides a single branch of your flowchart into multiple branches corresponding to each of the choices. When the viewer selects a choice from the MCB, she navigates forward on the selected choices branch. In other words, she eliminated all the other choice branches by making that one choice. A word of caution here though. While an MCB looks like a very useful box, you need to use them very carefully because if you have more than a couple of MCB boxes in your flowchart, the flowchart structure can quickly get complicated for you to maintain. This is why we highly recommend using simple decision boxes wherever you can instead of using more than one MCBs. Another important point about MCBs. To encourage best practices in your flowchart, you can add a new MCB only after a statement box, meaning when the center box is a statement box. This means the editor tool to add the MCB will only be available when your current box is a statement box. So you will not find the option to add a MCB box when the current box is any box other than the statement box. So let's go ahead and create our MCB. Let's bring the statement box in the center and look for the editor tools for the option to add the MCB. The MCB edit tool has quite a few options, so let's understand this properly. Please select the steps in the same order explained in the description to create the MCB. First, let's give our MCB the text caption, which will tell the viewer to select one choice from the drop-down list of choices. Next, let's customize the list of choices itself. Please note that any MCB will have a minimum of two choices always available, the default choice and the other choice. The default choice can be renamed but cannot be deleted. The other choice can neither be renamed nor can it be deleted. You can add as many additional unique choices as you like. Any additional choice you add can be renamed or deleted. Let's add a couple of choices and save to create our MCB. Now we have an MCB box with a drop-down list of all the choices we entered. Each choice is a new branch separating from our main branch. For our example flowchart, we need to add new statement boxes after each of our choices to grow each of those branches. And so we do that by using the editing menu for MCB. You will probably have noticed that we have a few more editing options available when we try to edit an existing MCB compared to what we had available when we first created the MCB box. This is because now we have tools available to edit each of the choices as well as add more boxes after these choices. We highly recommend that the first box you add after each of your MCB choices be a simple statement box. Statement boxes are uniquely special because they can be leveraged to use all sorts of advanced features like inserting new boxes, creating bookmark links, and more. So let's go ahead and add some statement boxes. To add a box after a choice, let's click on the edit option for that choice and scroll down. We can make changes to the text caption for this choice right here if we need it. Let's go ahead and select the option for adding a statement box and scroll down. Add the caption of our statement box here and click on Save. This creates a new statement box after our choice, and we can confirm that in the choices table in the next box column. I'm now going to add the box after our second choice by following the same steps. We still have the last choice, Other, which we cannot remove, and so we need to handle what happens when the user does not want to select any of the remaining choices in the drop-down list and selects the other choice. We are going to show the viewer an appropriate message in a statement box. This is a good time to review how our flowchart looks. So let's click on the whole flowchart view feature. Notice how our MCB and its choices are represented with a group of decision boxes in brown color. These choices will still be presented to your audience as a drop-down list. And here are the statement boxes following each of the MCB choices. Also, you can see here that if I follow this branch and reach the end of the branch, an email will be sent out with the transcript. We will test it out in just a minute. All right, it seems like we are done creating our sample flowchart for now. So let's end the edit mode by clicking on the edit toggle. Let's select the choice to turn off the edit mode. Now we are looking at the same flowchart in the view mode. Note that in the view mode, members of your private organization can send you detailed feedback for each specific box of the flowchart. We can always go back and make changes to this flowchart based on this feedback in a way that can drive continuous improvement in your processes. Now we have created a version 0 of our new flowchart. If you want to make more changes to your version 0, then just click on the edit toggle and then find the version you want to edit and click on the edit icon. You can also just view a particular version or create a clone of that version into another version for this flowchart. Right now, since we are in the view mode, let's see how your viewers will experience this flowchart. I'm going to quickly navigate through the flowchart so we can take a look at the activity log email that gets sent automatically. Now let me open the email I just received from this activity. The first part of the email includes the details about the viewer's interaction with your flowchart. The start time and the end time could tell you how much time it took the viewer to reach your customized recommendation based on their choices. The timestamp is for the standard UTC time of the GMT time zone. The second part of the email has a very detailed transcript of all the steps the viewer took inside the flowchart. It gives you the timestamp of the viewer's click, the type of the box, the answer from the viewer, as well as the name of the flowchart. By default, you can receive these activity logs in your email, but you can also have these activity logs create a new ticket in your ticketing, CRM, or ERP systems by sending this activity log email to the email address those systems are configured to monitor. With this activity log email, we completed a full cycle of creating a flowchart, navigating it like one of your viewers, and then reviewing the activity log. It took us some time to discuss the creating process, but you might be able to create a whole flowchart in a matter of minutes. And your audience can navigate the flowchart and receive your customized guidance, usually in less than 30 seconds. What we just created was a flowchart based on our simple example. Let's switch gears a little and explore a powerful feature that Decision provides to connect one existing box with another existing box, what we call a bookmark link. When you create a new box, the new box is automatically connected using a regular incoming connection arrow. Bookmark links are just like regular connectors, but there is one important difference. Bookmark links allow you to connect two existing boxes from either the same flowchart or two different flowcharts. In other words, a bookmark link connects an existing source box with an existing destination box. Let's understand two important aspects about boxes and arrows in the Decision platform. First, every box will have exactly one regular incoming connection arrow, but it can have any number of incoming bookmark links from other boxes. Second, there can be only one outgoing arrow from each of the outgoing box corners. But this outgoing arrow can either be a regular arrow or a bookmark link. Once again, bookmark links are a very powerful feature and they enable a truly modular design for your flowcharts. But like anything else, you need to plan these links carefully to be able to easily maintain your flowcharts for the long term. Let's see how easily we can create a bookmark link. We have introduced three new bookmark links to our example flowchart. So we will make bookmark link connections from our source boxes to our destination box. Let's open our flowchart in the edit mode. There are two steps in creating our bookmark link. The first step is to create a bookmark alias on the destination box. Bring the destination box in the center, then click on the bookmark icon next to your center box and give it a name that you can easily remember this box with. This bookmark alias just gives you a friendly way to reference a particular destination box. Bookmark aliases are useful in using several features in Decision platform. From time to time, these bookmark aliases may get deleted when you take some actions on your flowchart. So the best thing to do is to just create a bookmark alias for a box just when you need it for using some feature and then forget about it. The second step is to add the bookmark link itself. So let's go to the source box, open the edit menu, and select the tool to create a bookmark link. Here you will select your bookmark alias we just created in the drop-down list and click Save. This will create a new bookmark link between the source and the destination boxes. Let's look at our example flowchart and add bookmark links after each of the MCB choice branches. So when the viewer navigates through each choice, they will be taken to the same user input box for entering customer feedback. That way, everyone that starts navigating our flowchart will end up in the same box at the end of their journey, and every time an email will be sent with their activity log. I'm going to quickly create bookmark links for our choices. As you can see here, bookmark links are displayed as a dashed line in the flowchart. In our case, the source and the destination box of the bookmark links are both in the same flowchart. But you can also create a bookmark link to a destination box which is from a different flowchart. As you just saw, it's very easy to create a bookmark link by selecting your bookmark alias in the drop-down list. But before you are able to create these bookmark links, your destination box needs to satisfy two important conditions. The first condition, your destination box must belong to the master version of your destination flowchart at the time this bookmark link is created. And the second condition only applies to public flowcharts in the public organization. If your source box belongs to a different public flowchart than your destination box, then that destination flowchart must be a publicly shared flowchart. We will discuss how flowchart sharing works in a minute. If these conditions are not satisfied, you may not see your bookmark alias for the destination box in the drop-down list. So if you don't find your bookmark alias in the drop-down list, first make sure your destination box satisfies both these conditions. Once this bookmark link is created, your viewers can navigate from your source box to your destination box connected along that bookmark link. This is a very useful feature because it allows you to build logical feedback loops, or it will allow you to separate your business logic in different modules that can be connected using these bookmark links on specific branches. Once again, please use this powerful feature after thoroughly planning your process flowcharts. Now let's review our flowchart in the whole flowchart view. As you can see, each of the choices now converge into the same user input box because of the bookmark links we added. Let's see how it will look to your audience when they are navigating this flowchart. They will see the bookmark link as a dotted line, but otherwise they will just move to the user input box as usual. When your user input box is the current box in the center, you can see all the incoming bookmark links shown here as dashed lines, as well as the source boxes in the previous box layer. This is an easy way to know how many bookmark links are converging into your current box and which source boxes are they connecting from. Here's an important point to remember about bookmark links. If you ever want to delete incoming bookmark links on the current box, just remember that you will need to go to each one of these source boxes and delete each outgoing bookmark links individually from that source box. Just make the source box as the current box in the center and open the editor tool to permanently delete the outgoing bookmark link. Do this very carefully because you cannot undo deleting these bookmark links. In fact, we recommend that you back up your flowchart by printing it from the whole flowchart view as explained earlier. Here is another situation you might face. While editing your flowchart, you might need to delete a box with either an outgoing or incoming bookmark link. Remember that before you can delete the box, you will first need to delete one by one each of the outgoing as well as incoming bookmark links for this box. Only after you have deleted all the outgoing and incoming bookmark links for your box, you will be able to delete that box. When you build your flowchart in Decision, it could become the single place where your author can maintain it and where everyone else can interact with your streamlined processes. So for an author, maintaining these flowcharts is a very important aspect of driving continuous improvement in your processes. We already saw how you can grow a flowchart branch by just adding new boxes. But from time to time, you might have to insert new boxes, even in the middle of your flowchart, for making minor modifications. For that, you can use the editor tools for inserting boxes between two adjacent boxes. Let's go ahead and insert a new decision box right here between the yes corner of this decision box and the statement box. You need to pick the right tool for this from the editing menu. Note that the diagram reminds you what is going to be inserted and how the new green connections are going to be created. You just give the caption for that box and click Save to insert this box between the two existing boxes. It works the same way for inserting other types of boxes, and so you have a lot of flexibility in maintaining your flowcharts. Once again, keep in mind that the edit menu is contextual and the tools available depend on your current box. This means that different insert tools will be available as it makes sense according to the current box being edited. Now let's talk about some important considerations when it comes to deleting decision boxes. A decision box can only be deleted if at least one of the yes or the no branches have no boxes connected. In other words, if you have boxes connected on both the corners of the decision box, you will not be able to delete this decision box. In this situation, you have to delete at least one whole branch before you can delete this decision box. Deleting a multiple choice box also needs careful consideration. A MCB box can only be deleted when there are no boxes connected after all of the choices except the default choice. In other words, say you have a situation like this, where the default choice has a connected box and at least one more choice has a box connected after it. In this case, you will have to delete the box after all non-default choices first, and then only you will be able to delete the MCB. Because of these constraints around deleting multiple choice boxes, we highly recommend you follow some best practices in designing your flowcharts. Try your best to use only decision boxes as much as possible, and when you have to use an MCB box, try not to use more than one or maximum two MCB boxes in your flowcharts. This will keep the structure of your flowchart easy to maintain. Using mostly decision boxes will also give your audience the best experience interacting with your flowchart. When you have to use the multiple choice box, we strongly recommend that immediately following each of your MCB choices, the very first new box you add be a statement box. Adding this statement box after each MCB choice will give you a lot of flexibility in maintaining your flowchart in the long run. And after that statement box, add a bookmark link to a destination box in either the same flowchart or a different flowchart. If using fewer MCB per flowchart does not work for your use case, consider dividing your flowchart into multiple smaller flowcharts and then connect them using bookmark links like so. Designing your flowcharts carefully with these best practices will make it easy for you to make improvements and manage your flowcharts going forward. Now let's talk about flowchart boxes in general. We recommend that you write the caption of your boxes in very simple, familiar language as if you are having a conversation with the viewer and the viewer is responding to it using the response buttons. Apart from the caption itself, you are also able to show an image, show a YouTube video, attach a document, or even a link to some other website on your box. When this box comes in the center layer, your image or video will be displayed for a few seconds. You can view the image again by clicking on the image icon, and you can click on this icon to view the image in a better quality. This image could be a screenshot for training purposes, or you could even point out items inside the image for guidance purposes. These features allow you to provide enough context around the logic of your flowchart and allows you to provide the right information only when it is relevant based on the viewer's choices. Now let's say we are happy with the new flowchart we just created and would like to share with others. Sharing and other features are available in the Edit Versions window as flowchart properties. Let's take a brief look at how sharing works in Decision platform. In Decision, there are three states of a flowchart: private, public, and published. It's important to understand the distinction very clearly. By default, any flowchart you create is private, and only the users like the author who have the edit privileges for this flowchart can access and edit it. It's okay to keep your flowchart private while you are still working on making changes to your flowchart because you may not want others to see it before it's ready. Decision has an advanced version management system which not only allows you to efficiently manage multiple versions for each one of your flowchart, but also control which version is exposed to your audience. When a particular version of your flowchart is ready to be shared, you need to identify a master version for your flowchart, even if at that moment you might have only one version. We will explain master version in more detail in a minute. Now that we have a master version identified, let's consider two different scenarios for sharing your flowcharts. In first scenario, your flowchart belongs to a private organization. In this case, all members of your organization will be able to access your flowchart master version under its goal, but no one outside of your organization can access this flowchart. To share your flowchart with people outside your private organization, you will need to publish your flowchart, as we will explain in a few minutes. The second scenario is when your flowchart belongs to the public organization. To share this flowchart, you need to go to the flowchart version screen and under the Make Your Flowchart Public or Private section, change the status of the flowchart to public. After you make its status public, other DeciZone members will be able to access your flowchart under its goal in the public category tree. If at any time you remove the public status of this flowchart, it will go back to private status and other people will not be able to access your flowchart under its goal. In other words, making a flowchart public allows other logged in DeciZone users to discover your flowchart in the public category tree under its goal. This is also a great way to share insightful flowcharts with all other DeciZone members. When you have a public flowchart open, you can copy the link in the address bar and send it to other users. When they click on the link and log into their DeciZone account, they will be able to access this flowchart as long as the status remains public. Next, let's understand what the master version of the flowchart means. The master version status lets the author control which version of the flowchart will be presented to all the users that have access to this flowchart. In other words, when someone clicks on the flowchart under a goal, DeciZone will always display the master version of that flowchart. At any time, the author can change the master version to some other flowchart version, and from that point onwards, all the viewers of this flowchart will be seamlessly presented the new master version of that flowchart. So far, we discussed sharing your flowcharts either inside your private organization or with other DeciZone members in the public organization. But it is important to note that to access your public or private flowcharts, other members will have to sign into their DeciZone accounts first. If you want to share your flowchart without your audience having to sign into their DeciZone accounts, like for example your customers, there is a way for private organizations to publish their flowcharts. Publishing your flowchart allows you to share your flowchart with people who do not yet have a DeciZone account, like your customers or the general public. When you publish a flowchart, you get a unique URL link that can be shared with anyone for accessing the flowchart. Published flowchart URL links are ideal for adding to your website so your customers can easily click the link and walk through your published flowcharts. The redirect feature for published flowcharts may be valuable for you here. You can specify a redirect URL right here. When your customer finishes walking through your published flowchart, DeciZone will redirect the customer to that URL after the flowchart is completed. In other words, your customer clicks on a published flowchart URL link on your website, walks through the flowchart, and then be brought back to the same website using the redirect feature. Before we move away from this topic, please note that published flowcharts are always presented to your audience in a view-only mode. If you want to edit any flowchart, you need to be logged into your DeciZone account and also need to have the edit privileges for that specific flowchart. For the best experience in sharing your flowcharts with your customers, we recommend to use the published flowchart URL link on your website. But if for some reason you need to embed your published flowcharts, here's an easy way to get the code to embed your published DeciZone flowchart inside an iframe in your website. Please note that if you embed your published flowchart, when your customers access your website on a mobile phone, they may not get the best experience because of how most browsers treat embedded components. That is why we highly recommend using the published flowchart URL as a link on your website. For every flowchart you create, you can set several properties to give your viewers a better experience with your flowchart. DeciZone creates your new flowchart with a default name, but you might want to give your flowchart a more suitable name here. You can provide an easy to understand description for your flowchart. Here you can provide some related and helpful keywords which your users might naturally think of when they are looking for your flowchart. We also recommend uploading an appropriate image for your flowchart. Updating these flowchart metadata means that when you share your flowchart on social media platforms, your flowchart will be displayed as a pre-formatted card capable of attracting more attention. These properties help your followers discover your flowcharts better when you share your flowchart on your social networks. When you are ready, the social media sharing section makes it easy for you to share your flowcharts right here. To manage all your flowcharts, you can visit the content settings section. Here, you can find all your organization's flowcharts along with some important features. You can check this box to include this flowchart in your organization homepage as we explained in training number 1. Here, you're also able to download each flowchart's visitor activity between 2 dates in the form of an Excel file. You can then analyze this visitor's interaction data to be able to further improve your processes, services, and products. Congratulations for making it through the training number 2. We covered a lot of ground there. We talked in detail about creating, modifying, and sharing your DeciZone flowcharts. In case you are wondering, all these editing and sharing features are also available on your mobile browser. So not being near your computer is not a valid excuse anymore. Check out our other videos in the training series as well. We have designed the platform so that you can create and modify your flowcharts in a matter of minutes, even on your mobile phone, whenever and wherever you get the great idea. Our goal is to provide you a great experience while you enable confident decisions for your audience. If there is anything we can do to make the platform work better for you, please do not hesitate to let us know by contacting the DeciZone support team. Happy flowcharting.